Let's do the first step together of adding a new method to the main activity. You can pick anywhere in the file to add your method as long as it's outside of the braces of a different method. I'm just going to add it right below the other method we defined, which was calculate price. I'm going to say private for the access modifier because the only things that need to access this method are within the main activity. Then I'm going to say string for the return type because the create order summary method should return a string, and then the name of the method is create order summary, and then it should take as input a price, which is a number. Okay, so we got the method signature done, but now we have to implement the method so that it returns this message. The message starts with the name, a quantity, a total, and then thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and then I'm going to paste it in the create order summary method. Now we can start with some base code. The difference though is now the order summary should start with the name, not with the total price. So I'm going to move this to the next line and save it for later. I'm going to initialize the price message variable to name and then Captain Kunal. And then on the next line, I'm going to update the price message. I'm going to append to the existing message, so I'll say price message plus and then the new text. And I want to add quantity and then add the quantity variable. Since quantity is a global variable, we should be able to access it within this method. Okay, so now we have name and quantity. On the next line, I'm going to update the price message again and add some more text. Actually, this text is supposed to be the total price, so I can just use what we had before. Okay, and then on the last line, we update the price message again, take the existing value of that string, and then add thank you to it. This all looks good, but there's still an error here, and it says missing return statement. Since we're supposed to be returning a summary string, then I need to add another line of code that says return, and then the return value. In this case, the return value is price message. Then I add a semicolon at the end too. Okay, now the error's gone. It looks like our code is good, so I'm going to run it and test it. Okay, so now if I change the quantity to 3, and I hit the order button, it doesn't work. Let's see what's wrong. Looking at the code more closely, I see what the problem is. There's a warning here that says that the private method create order summary is never used. I forgot to call it. Let's go back to the quiz slide. Okay, so we did the first task successfully, but now I have to call the create order summary method from the submit order method. Going back to Android Studio, I need to fix the submit order method. I've calculated the price, which is correct, but now I have to pass it into the create order summary method. So I'm going to do that right here. Create order summary, the price variable. The return value of this method is going to get stored in the price message variable. I don't need this line of code anymore because thank you is already in the text down here. So I can delete that. And then to update the screen, all I have to do is call display message with the price message variable like before. And now let's try to run the app again. If I change the quantity to 3 and I hit the order button, it's still not working. Most of the text is on one line when it should be on multiple lines. So let's go back and fix our code. Looking at this code, I realize that I forgot the new line character. I added it properly for thank you, but not for the others. So I'm going to add it to the other lines now. Okay, now let's try to run it again. And it works! Awesome! Now Captain Kunal can have his 3 cups of coffee. I want to show you some other optimizations you can do to your code. Notice that you could have called the calculate price method within the create order summary method instead of passing it in as an input parameter. So you could have done calculate price right here. That would have worked as well. But I wanted to show you that you can take the output of one method and pass it as input to another method. So we'll leave it as we had it before. Within the create order summary method, the other thing I would have done is use the plus equals operator. This is shorthand, and it means the same thing as price message equals price message plus all of this. So if I change all of this to be plus equals, it will be the same as what I had before. This just requires less typing, so your code is more concise. In the calculate price method, the other thing I would have done is just return the value immediately instead of storing it in a local variable and then returning it. This also leads to more concise code. And then up here in the submit order method, instead of creating the order summary and storing it in a variable and then using it right after, I could have just called create order summary and then called display message on that. This leads to the same thing. The return value of the create order summary method is a string, and that will get passed as an input argument to the display message method. You can leave it like this if you want, if it's easier to read. All of these tips and tricks lead to the same logic anyways. And before I forget, also remember to add a java.comment at the top of this method to describe what it's supposed to be doing. Technically, you don't need a java.comment for a private method, but it's just good practice to write a description of a method so that other people who are reading your code will also understand what you're trying to do. The description of this method is that it creates a summary of the order. The input parameter is the price of the order, and it returns the text summary.